This is Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest today is Gary DeLong. After we speak with Gary, we'll be speaking with Al Austin. They are both members of the Long Beach City Council. And of course, like many cities, they are focused on pensions and pension obligations. Gary, you know as well as anyone that several cities have really suffered under the weight of pension obligations. San Bernardino has declared bankruptcy. Stockton has declared bankruptcy, allegedly, purportedly because of the weight of pension obligations. Give us a sense of how dramatic pension obligations can weigh on municipalities.
Well, they're very significant for all cities. While Long Beach isn't anywhere close to bankruptcy, what we have had to do is reduce the level of service we provide to our residents over the last few years. And it's not just pension costs, but it's also wages, compensation, it's all employee.
But let's really focus on that, because there does seem to be a bit of confusion about where the weight comes from.
Yes.
I mean, look, people need to make a living wage. They need to be able to pay their bills and put food on the table. Where people get a little queasy, though, is when you think about someone who's retired 10 years ago and they're getting 90% of their salary.
Correct.
So how big is that pension obligation weight versus just paying someone's salary?
Well, I can tell you that pension obligation is the fastest growing expense in the city of Long Beach budget. By far, it's grown faster than anything else.
And as I understand it, Long Beach is not unique.
No. In fact, we're typical.
So why is that? Is it because in the early part of this century, a lot of concessions were given by the cities to the bargaining units?
Well, we'll take one step further back, and I think it was 2000, the state legislature passed SB 400,
right,
which increased pension benefits for some groups of employees by 50%, and then cities and counties followed suit.
Why?
Their theory at the time was saying, well, we have to be competitive, therefore we have to increase our pension benefits. It was a shallow argument, but that was the argument. The other argument, let me just say, was some people were pontificating that it wouldn't cost you anything because we had the dot-com,
right,
huge stock market increases. Don't worry about it. Your return on your investment will pay these inflated costs, and obviously we know what happened to the stock market.
And the problem is under federal law, state law, any law you look at, it's very difficult to go back and modify pension benefits without an agreement by a bargaining unit.
Well, actually, it's even worse than that. It's difficult to modify pension agreements going back, even if they agree.
Even if,
like, for example, we can agree, which we have in Long Beach, to reduce pension benefits for future employees. Right. But an employee can't even agree, if you're an existing employee, to say, okay, my first 20 years I earned this, but for the next 10 years I'll take a smaller amount. And that is absolutely crazy.
But isn't that what's happened recently, what you just described with, for example, the International Association of Machinists, that on a go-forward basis, you've modified pension benefits?
For new employees on a going-forward basis. But if you've worked for the city a year, you are guaranteed the next 29 years or so, you will get the old, enriched, expensive.
So the proposal that was just passed, 8-1, you were the one.
I was the one. I voted no.
Focuses on new hires.
That's correct.
It's a second tier.
Yes, and what cities are hiring these days?
Not many.
Correct.
I mean, we know that part of the economic and employment recession was as a result of the layoffs of public employees. For better or for worse.
It contributed to it,
For better or for worse. Well, let's talk about this new agreement with the IAM. It was a bargaining unit which caused the city a lot of fits and starts. You had successfully bargained with your police union, your firefighters union.
Engineers, management, city.
But those are the three biggies, the
Correct.
police, fire, and IAM. Why did you vote no when 8 voted yes?
I voted no because really it didn't fix the long-term problem. Yes, we save a little bit money this year, a little more money next year, but we have to extend the contract. It's a bad deal for Long Beach residents. We should let the contract expire on September 30th. We should write a new contract that's fair to our citizens. This one isn't.
Well, many cities, for example, San Jose, for example, San Diego, have had voters fight back, if I can use that term, against rising pension obligations, or so they believe.
Correct.
And have rolled back pension obligations in a very, what some would argue, draconian way. Is that something that needs to happen in Long Beach?
In my opinion, yes. We had an item on the calendar a few months ago. I voted in support of it. I think we should put it out in front of the public to vote on. And one of the things it did is it rolled back employee wages to 2010 for this union group. And think about it. Management hasn't had a raise in 5 years. A number of our employee groups haven't haven't had a raise, and yet this employee group had 18% increases in the last 5 years, which certainly outpaces the private sector by far. Additionally, if you were a new employer, you had what's called step increases, so you also could have got 25% increase on top of 18. You could have got a 43% increase in your pay in the last 4.5 years. That's crazy.
I'm just wondering, though, and I don't know the particulars of what you're describing, if that's what we would want in Long Beach. We think about the fights in Ohio, in Michigan, in Wisconsin. I mean, it has gotten really ugly in these upper Midwest states over pension reform packages that have been signed by Republican legislatures, Republican governors. I don't think it's gotten as ugly when it's the voters speaking out. But
well, first you want an amicable solution, right? I mean, we want to do it in a collaborative fashion. But if we can't get there, my job is to represent my constituents first. I need to represent the citizens and the taxpayers of Long Beach. I don't work for the employees.
I understand.
They do a great job. I'm delighted to have them. But that's not who I work for.
So will you be a part of, or are you aware of, a grassroots effort to put a pension reform initiative on the ballot that would roll back benefits as you believe they should be?
Well, as I mentioned, we did have something on the counter a few months ago, but as part of this latest negotiation, the City Council has agreed not to put it on the ballot at this point in time. But
could it be done organically?
It could, but it would be a very difficult process to get that done. So I think what we're going to do is we extend the contract a year, which I was opposed to, and then at the end of that year, we're going to have to rip the Band-Aid off. If we don't, then we might be back at the ballot.
So how dramatic are the savings for the Long Beach budget? I believe Mr. Austin will say that it is a significant savings for Long Beach and should really ease the pain. You're convinced it's not as significant
as it should be? It's about $2.5 million this year. It's $3.8 million next year, and then the contract ends. Now, what is ironic is some will disingenuously tell you, oh, over 10 years, we get $100 million savings. Well, that's just crazy. It's a one-year deal. How do you calculate a 10-year savings on a one-year deal?
Are they presuming that this contract continues for 10 years?
They presume that nothing changes. I could tell you what won't happen is that. Pay could go up, pay could go down, but it will not stay the same for 10 years.
But if the deal is as it is for the next 10 years, are those savings, is that how they extrapolate it?
Yes, that's how they extrapolate it. But on the other hand, this contract would have expired September 30th, so you would have got these savings anyway. It's really disingenuous to suggest there's a 10-year savings. There's not.
So where do we go from here? Because this issue continues to cause a lot of pain for municipalities. Like you said, that money, instead of going to fix potholes, open libraries, is going to retirees.
Oh, but it's worse than that. It's fewer police officers in the street. It's having to take an engine out of service in the fire department. I mean, there are public safety issues, not just quality of life.
But how do you remain competitive as an employer?
Well, I think you have to look at it as we would in the private sector and say, well, how many employees do we have leaving the organization because they're getting a better deal somewhere else?
How many?
Virtually zero.
That's what you're finding.
That's correct.
But
when the economy turns around, it could be a different story.
Especially with the second tier just kicking in. I mean, how many people have been hired under the second tier?
None yet.
Right.
And it's going to be very few because our
revenues
aren't
I'm sure
growing.
We have examples in other municipalities and other counties, and we have not seen. I don't know.
We have not seen any.
I'm just concerned. I'm not advocating one way or the other, but there is an issue with brain drain, and as it is, I think the private sector has a bit of an edge on the public sector, and we still need outstanding, bright, talented, gifted, ambitious young people.
We absolutely do.
In the public sector.
We do.
And when benefits was the kind of the bargaining chit that the public employee could use to lure employees, that's increasingly gone.
It is increasingly gone, but in lieu of that, we pay them well. So in the past, it used to be you underpaid on an annual basis, but then you made it up in pension. Today, public sector employees are primarily paid competitive wages with the private sector.
Arguably.
Well, they are for the kinds of jobs they do. I mean, yes, there's CEOs and there's different people that have very high rates of pay that you would never find in government. But if you look at the jobs they do, they're paid a competitive wage with the private sector, and then they have an outstanding pension on top of it.
So in the final analysis, this IAM contract is short-term, and you'll have to revisit it in a matter of months?
Within the next 18 months. But it is a step in the right direction. It's not backwards. It's a step in the right direction. I would just like to get there sooner.
Okay. His name is Gary DeLong. He is a member of the Long Beach City Council. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Al Austin. He's also a member of the Long Beach City Council. He was one of the 8 in the 8-to-1 vote in favor of the IAM pension agreement. My name is Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on Charter California Edition. This is Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest, Al Austin, member of the Long Beach City Council. And so I want to speak with you about an issue that may seem esoteric to many, but in reality has a dramatic impact on cities, counties, and the state. And that is the question of pension obligations.
Oh, yeah.
As you know, pension obligations have caused some cities, San Bernardino, Stockton, to declare bankruptcy. Maybe that's not the only reason, but pension obligations really have hurt a lot of government entities. Explain to us why pension obligations today can be such a weight on municipalities.
Well, I mean, quite simply, our revenues are not keeping pace with our expenses. Pensions have been negotiated over the years. And back in 1999, early 2000s, several enhancements were actually negotiated for employees who are receiving benefits who no longer even work for many of the municipalities or states. And so there needs to be an adjustment. And I'm actually pleased to report that just last week we, as a city council in Long Beach, reached agreement and ratified an agreement with the IAM, the largest city employees union.
And let's talk about the city of Long Beach, because there have been many municipalities, counties that have had tremendous difficulties negotiating with their bargaining units.
Well, it wasn't an easy negotiations.
But things have gotten much worse than what's happened in Long Beach. I mean, there have been lawsuits, there have been ballot initiatives. I mean, there has been a lot of fighting going on over this very issue. But as I understand it, Long Beach has 3 bargaining units. The police, the firefighters, and now the IAM, as you mentioned. And you had been able to successfully negotiate some concessions with the police and firefighters unions. That had been done, I think, even 2 years ago.
Almost a little over a year ago.
But the IAM, the International Machinists Association, real problems there. I mean, that was a challenge, to say the least.
The one thing is, and actually there are more than 3 bargaining units. With
3 major ones?
But 3 major ones. The one thing that I've learned over the years is bargaining isn't a one-size-fits-all approach. And you know, when you look at the bargaining units, you have to look at their interests as well as what we're trying to accomplish as well. And I think we were able to do that in the end with the IAM. I like to think that I had played a hand in helping to get that deal done. As a result of the agreement that was reached with them, we will probably save almost $4 million a year from our general fund.
Which is a significant number for Long Beach.
Absolutely. When you're looking at the fact that, you know, last year we were $10 million short, you know.
That's
we're almost
40%,
half there. But this also applies to enterprise funds as well. So in total, you know, our port, our harbor, airport. So those enterprise funds, water department. I would say a total of almost $12 million a year will be realized through this pension reform. And over 10 years, we're talking about $125 million, which is significant.
As part of the reform, employees, current employees, will contribute more to their pensions. That was agreed upon. What also happened was that there was a second tier set up for new hires. I understand the need to create a different scheme for new hires, but my question for you is, part of the reason many people choose public service is because they see that they will be provided outstanding benefit packages, be it healthcare, be it pensions, be it retirement. Over the last few years, the trend has been that public benefit packages have been getting, should we say, stingier and stingier, not as accommodating. And when you have a private sector that arguably will pay more money in terms of pure salary than the public sector, if all of a sudden the public sector is pulling back on its benefit packages, how are cities like Long Beach able to lure the best and the brightest when it's now no longer a net advantage on the benefit side?
You know, I don't know how that's going to work out. I would say that I believe the compensation packages for public employees are pretty fair, and particularly when you see where the private sector has gone for particularly classified type employees. I think we're pretty competitive with even the private sector, and yes, the benefit packages are pretty decent. People can retire with dignity when they go to work for the
Will the
public
new
sector.
hires be able to retire with dignity? That's the question. Because, and by the way, Long Beach is not unique here. I mean, you're not the first one to create a second tier. This has been literally the trend.
And the second tier, and then raise the age in terms of the age
retirement
limit for
eligibility,
retirement,
which may not be a terrible thing. I mean,
Yeah,
we're
you
living
go from
longer.
55 to 62.
Right. We're living longer.
Right.
We're working longer. But it's the benefit package that is less generous. I'm not.
Well, what I honestly think is that we need to, public sector as well as private sector, there needs to be a greater emphasis on just retirement management and financial management as we plan for the future. I don't believe that a defined benefit pension, whether it's 2% or 2.5%, and those are the formulas that we're talking about, are going to necessarily provide anyone a lavish lifestyle when they retire. But they're going to have to supplement that with 401k plans as well as other savings plans.
Well, let's talk about 401k because, as you know, the state of California has engaged in some significant pension reform.
Right.
There had been discussions about creating maybe a hybrid 401k for public employees. To some, that's a brilliant idea. To others, those are fighting words.
Right.
What's your sense of allowing public employees to participate in some form of privatized savings? Because if you're in a 401k...
Well, most of them already do.
But
the plans are available. I mean, the options are available. I know, for example, LA County, I believe, City of Long Beach. You can also.
But is that something we want to move toward? Where
I think it's the smart approach for employees, if they can control their own destiny, absolutely, to do that.
But what if there's a stock market crash?
Well, then there's the risk there as well.
Right, but who?
I don't think you should solely.
Right, so it would be a hybrid.
I wouldn't want my retirement or trust my retirement completely to a 401k if I could avoid it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that there is a lot of movement on the question of pension reform.
Right.
We also know that when pension reform matters have been presented to voters, they have not been very generous to the public employees. It's as if the public employees are the scapegoat du jour. Is Long Beach at risk of having an organic movement grow up within city limits where pensions would be scaled back even more as a result of a grassroots effort?
Well, with the agreement that we actually reached with our city employees, I don't believe that legally, under the current laws, that we could actually go any further than we did.
Interesting.
Our employees are picking up their full obligation in terms of what is contributed to their pensions, as well as the formula has been reduced. If we reduce the formula any lower, in my opinion, we would be running into issues with Social Security, because it would actually be lower than the Social Security threshold for retirement. And so, our employees actually have sacrificed and come to the table and recognize that they need to do what they can to help this city provide continuous service. And I think the residents of Long Beach, once they read the deal, understand what was accomplished there, will actually see that. And hopefully that will temper the movement to go to a ballot or anything like that, because that's draconian in my opinion.
So as we look forward, is the Long Beach City budget looking as if it's about to be in balance?
Well, you know what? We're looking a lot better than we did a year or 2 years ago. I feel that 2013 is going to give us a fresher outlook.
Amen to that.
Our budget.
That would be terrific.
We'll be able to continue to deliver services. I mean, and this pension reform package will help us accomplish that in a big way.
His name is Al Austin. He's a member of the Long Beach City Council. My name is Brad Pomerance. We thank you for watching Charter California Edition. This is Charter California Edition. I'm Brad Pomerance. Our guest today, Tim Sele, is with the American Red Cross in Long Beach. He is on the board. He is chair of an event coming up on March 14th in Long Beach. It's called the Hometown Heroes Award Breakfast. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, I want to speak with you, sir, about the Red Cross here in Long Beach. Tell us about the organization a bit.
Well, the organization in Long Beach covers quite a broad range. It's part of the Los Angeles region, and it serves, along with our partner chapter, Rio Hondo, we serve 21 cities and communities from San Pedro up through Whittier, as well as the ports of Los Angeles and Long Beach and Catalina Island.
Huge.
Yeah,
it's a huge
big
organization.
footprint, and a really diverse footprint to serve.
And the Red Cross isn't just about collecting blood.
That's correct.
There's so much more to the Red Cross. Tell us about it.
Well, there are 5 distinct lines of service. There's, of course, the collecting blood, response to disasters. You know, it's our mission to, provide shelter and hope to anybody who's affected by a disaster. Help people train for disasters. We have, of course, life-saving skills, CPR, first aid, safe kids classes, babysitter classes, quite a range of things. And then our last is service to the armed forces, wherever they are and whatever they need.
I want to talk about life savings.
Please.
Because we have some life savers in our midst.
Yeah.
At the event coming up on March 14th at the Grand Event Center on Willow Street, you will be honoring 14 heroes for their just valiant efforts in 7 different incidents.
Yeah.
We're not going to say their names because they don't necessarily know who they are yet. They may know, but the attendees of the event don't.
Right.
But if you can, over the next few minutes, give us a sense of their remarkable, valiant, heroic acts.
Well, this year we've got, quite a range. We have a couple events, kind of people who get into cardiac arrest, and the
Don't
people
be
are right
humble.
there.
Don't be humble. I want to get a real picture in my mind of what these people have done.
Oh, well, one of my favorite of this year is kind of about preparedness.
Please.
There's a youngster, before preschool, whose parents had kind of taught him to be prepared, in case, they became incapacitated or if there was some issue. The mother had some medical issues, so they wanted to prepare the toddler. They went through drills, and so when his mother ended up having an issue, the child, I think he was 3 or 4 at the time, calmly contacted the authorities.
Come on.
Yeah, and got them there. So that's part of what we talk about in this
He
child.
saved his mother's life.
Exactly.
Literally.
Yeah.
Does he know that?
I don't know. I haven't had the chance to talk to him.
Right.
I'm looking very forward to meeting him.
Right.
So that, that I think that helps punctuate the event. We also have some people who jumped into to save a gentleman who was sinking in with his car into the, what was it, I forget which river kind of.
A river.
Yeah,
good
a river.
enough.
Yeah, good enough, yeah. So,
literally.
Yeah, so people who
Well, wait.
put themselves in
Look, we got to
risk,
paint
too.
this picture.
Yeah.
The car goes off the embankment.
Yeah,
The car is sinking. And people put their own lives in harm's way, jumped in to try to get that person out of the car.
Yeah.
And they did.
yes, yeah.
Who does that? I call 911.
Yeah, well, it just shows it shines a light on the best in our communities.
Right.
People who are just, strangers, they don't know these people, they just say, hey, this is something I have to do for another person in my community. And no, they make just great stories. It makes you feel great about, the community
It's interesting,
we
though,
live in.
because I can recall many years ago, I saw a car accident before my very eyes. And I could tell the people in that car needed assistance pretty quickly. And somehow, some way, even though I didn't expect it, and believe me, I'm no hero, I jumped out and I literally had to just pull the car door off the hinge. I didn't get adrenaline super strength, but I needed, and there was a baby in the car. It is remarkable how the human spirit can motivate you to help those that you don't even know, because you just see that dramatic need right before your eyes. More stories. I love stories.
Yeah. Those are some of the best ones from our event. We've had ones in the past. One of my favorites was probably, at a youth baseball game, where one of the children was hit in the chest with a ball, which put him in cardiac arrest.
Literally, truly.
Yeah.
Wow.
Just stopped his heart, and the uncle and another relative just jumped over the fence and saved his life, got his heart started again. You mentioned calling 911.
Right.
It's one of the, and I would advocate for everybody to go and get trained. You can go to redcross.org, find out where you are nationwide, and schedule a class. But the first thing is always get the emergency responders rolling. So make sure somebody's calling 911. Get the extremely trained people, and then attend to the.
I want to ask you about the Red Cross here in Long Beach, or just Red Cross generally, because look, you mentioned to me you're an engineer.
Yeah.
You're Boeing. You have a family, I presume.
Yep.
Why? I mean, what is it about this particular organization that compels you to take time out of your day to come talk to some guy on television, to push the envelope to get people to participate?
Well, so the Red Cross, so I really, resonate with the Red Cross mission.
Why?
Because it's about helping the fellow people. But it's one of those things when, I first got started and I thought, well, this feels like, something I'd like to do. And then as you see the dedication of some of the other volunteers, and you see some of the people you'll help, I had the opportunity and the privilege to work in a disaster relief shelter, just a local one.
For what disaster?
It was a smaller one. It was an apartment fire.
Wow.
And you're going to test my memory. It was
no,
like 2009, 2008.
Fine. Right.
And it was a small shelter, and that was kind of nice in a way, because it was my first, and so, I was able to kind of understand what to do. Then I got a time to sit and talk with the people who were there, and they were so, so grateful that somebody was just there just to give them shelter and hope for nothing in return. That's all, all we want to do, and it felt good to, talk to them and see how, how it really made a difference in their lives, and how it, kind of helped restabilize them so they could start looking forward. And, I watched some of the other volunteers and their dedication, the time they give, and it just, it kind of reaffirms.
And how do the heroes react when you tell them that you're going to be honored at the Grand Events Center on March 14th at 12 p.m. If you want to buy tickets, by the way, you can go to redcrosslb.org, but continue.
Yeah, no, please, yes, thank you for that. There's always a mix. Some people really, have more of the humble approach where, I don't really want to be recognized. In fact, we had 2 events this year where, and we respect that, where people said, I really don't. I did the right thing, but thank you. And but most people, they feel good about it. They want to bring their family and friends, and.
I wonder, maybe, I don't know if you know the answer to this, but does the hero and the saved, do they stay in touch?
Sometimes.
I know it's.
When we can, we try to bring, the survivors as well. And sometimes they do, but that's actually really good. I don't know.
Yeah, because I wonder, it's got to be a really interesting dynamic.
Yeah.
I mean, I know, I'm aware of people who's lost loved ones and donated the organs, and then the family will stay in touch with the person who received the organ. It's kind of a way to connect. But it is one of those situations where you're kind of forced together in a situation you never expected to be, especially when you're taking someone out of a river. You didn't expect to be their savior, and you're not really sure where to go. And
that's a great question.
Yeah.
I am going to ask.
You must ask.
I have to. Yeah.
Okay, so again, the event is on March 14th. At 12 p.m. It's at the Grand Event Center on Willow Street in Long Beach. To buy tickets, it's redcrosslb.org. Price?
$50 a ticket.
Which is worth it. And
Absolutely.
It's a fundraiser for the Red Cross?
Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank you so much for joining us. His name is Tim Sele. He is on the board of directors of the American Red Cross in Long Beach. My name is Brad Pomerance. We'll be right back on Charter California Edition.